What's up, YouTube fans? Today we're going to do a comparison of the Maketoys Meteor EX with the Takara Tomy MP-52 Starscream. So I just recently acquired both of these figures. Although the Meteor figure is a reissue, it is an older figure from a couple years ago. It did just come out in this version. So we're going to talk about up front kind of the changes, what they did differently with this reissue. This one also is really new. I got this just a couple weeks ago, and we did do a review on that. As I always mention with these reviews and comparisons, I try to be as objective as possible in the comparison, but of course there's subjectivity involved when you're judging figures like this. So if one or the other one wins and you prefer the other one, then you win. I'm really doing this to help people make a decision if they haven't decided which direction they're going to go or which mold they want to go with. And hopefully that helps some people out there. So without further ado, let's get started. We'll start off with accessories, and we're really going to talk about just the differences on the Meteor EX version. So before we get into the comparison here, I just want to go over the differences with the EX version of Meteor. So you can see I have it turned to the back here, and that's because they do now give you the wing fillers by default. They're glued in there. That's a nice addition. There are no other molding changes for this figure. All the rest of the mold, transformation, everything is the same. You also get these two blast effects, which they didn't include the first time. Now, some people might feel way about this because they were supposed to come with Acid Swarm, and instead you only got the green ones. So I think that might have been just an advertising mistake, or a marketing issue. But there you go. And then you also get these three gray faces. And these are like a lighter silver or gray compared to the original. The original was painted in this darker. And a lot of people said, hey, these faces are too dark. So they gave you these lighter faces. All right, so that's really it for changes. Nothing else different. Now let's get into the comparison. All right, let's start off with the accessories here. And just one that's not included here is the collector's card. I just wanted to note the Maketoys doesn't come with a collector's card. This is an accessory for the figure, so I'm not going to count it. I just want to note that there is that difference. So here's everything you get. Let's go one by one. So both of them come with 5 alternate faces here. The Meteor comes with 2 different colors, but there are 5. And then the MP-52 also comes with 5. They're all the same color, but slightly different expressions. So we'll count those even. They both come with these blast effects here. So we'll just take 2 of these, or maybe 2 of these. And there you go. The Meteor comes with this extra accessory, which is meant for their Megatron. So this hand actually attaches to their Megatron, and it can show you the choking look here. I'm going to count that off with this accessory, the Megatron gun, since they're both related to Megatron. Not quite even, but whatever. We'll set those aside. They both include the smaller missile tip here. Now, Starscreams, the MP-52s, are actually included in the null rays. They transform into this. So those are even. And here's what you're left with. I really don't care for these, but there are accessories that you get, the little rock and the thing and the screw or the drill. But these actually are really nice accessories. They work really well in the jet mode, and then this one can go with the Megatron gun. So we're going to give accessories to Takara Tomy. Okay, next we're going to take a look at the cartoon accuracy. In order to do that, we'll put the G1 image there for you to look at. And you can definitely see they both took a different style on a Starscream. The Maketoys went more of the anime style, larger lower body proportions and then smaller upper body, especially the head is much smaller. I personally think the head is a little too small, but the Takara Tomy went with the more thinner thighs and legs, whereas it has a larger upper body and a larger head. Some people don't like the look of that, that proportions. Me personally, I really like it. I think it looks good. If we look at the cartoon, though, you can see the styling on the Maketoys is definitely not as close as the Takara Tomy. You got extra pieces here. You got wings on the side. You got more squared off legs and arms, whereas the Takara Tomy is more rounded, both on the arms and the legs and the chest and the waist. So all of that kind of matches better with the cartoon image. You also have the color of the actual cockpit is more of an orangish copper versus the more copper here. So I think that's a better color. Colors in general, it looks like Takara is a little bit on the darker gray side, whereas this one's a little bit too white. Something in the middle would actually have been better. But if I had to pick one that's closer to the image, I think the Takara Tomy hits it a little bit better. Let's look at the back here so you can see, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. The back definitely both have some kibble and pieces and parts back here, but the Takara Tomy definitely looks more like the cartoon. You can see this actual center piece here is in the cartoon image, whereas the Maketoys has the nose cone, and that's not in the cartoon image. They also don't have all these wing pieces and bits and parts back here. Now, Takara Tomy still has those bits and pieces, but they've been folded up and compacted inside. So overall, just cleaner and closer to the cartoon. So because of all those, I'm going to give Takara Tomy Cartoon Accessory. I just think they nailed it. I mean, it is their property after all. They should be able to nail it. But Maketoys, while it's a good look, I don't think it was going after, you know, true cartoon accuracy. So we'll give that to Takara Tomy. Next, we'll talk about the Sculpt here. And they both obviously took different takes on Sculpt. The Takara Tomy's got the rounded edges and more bevels, whereas the Maketoys is pretty much square all throughout. The arms, the chest, the legs. Probably the only thing that's not, you know, squared is the crotch here. But there are some things that I think Takara Tomy looks better, like the arms and legs. I think they did a really good job. The head, they did a really good job on the Sculpt. But then the chest is a little too round. You can see it kind of almost looks like he has a belly there, whereas the Maketoys is much more squared off and it just looks more svelte. So I kind of like the chest overall on Maketoys, but I like the arms and legs on the Takara Tomy. And then coming to the back, I do like the way Takara did the rear, especially the wings. I just think it's cleaner. There's a lot of ugliness on the Sculpt here, a lot of things sticking out, and just pieces and parts. So I'm going to give them a tie on Sculpt. I think they both did some things right. They both did some things that could be improved. So we'll give them a tie. All right, next we're going to talk about the paint, and this is going to be relatively quick because the Takara Tomy is pretty much 100% painted with the exception of this cockpit, which even that kind of looks like it's painted, although it is just a translucent plastic. But everything you see here is painted. On the Maketoys, the red parts here, I believe here, and the cockpit, and then the thighs are painted. And then the blue right here and the black here. The rest is unpainted. All of this arms you see, the null rays, the wings with the exception of the red stripe, and then these legs here, the white, those are all unpainted parts. So we're going to give paint to Takara Tomy. This time they actually did the paint well. It doesn't scrape off and rub off as you're playing with it and transforming it. So we're going to give paint to Takara Tomy. All right, next we're going to talk about the build quality on these two, and this is going to be another controversial topic because some people have had QC issues on their MP-52 and some people have had issues with their Maketoys. Me personally, I don't have issues with either of these figures. You know, some people talked about the ankles being loose or cracked. I don't have that issue. Mine just stands just fine. You know, I can just set it down. It doesn't fall either direction. I don't have any cracks anywhere, any of the plastic. I do have a hairline fracture on the tail fin there, but it's not affecting anything. It's not getting bigger, and it doesn't really cause any issue. The only reason I even noticed it because somebody told me to look for it, and I went and looked for it. But other than that, I don't have any issues transforming this several times back and forth. Same with Maketoys. I don't have any QC issues on any of the parts. Nothing's breaking or anything like that. Now, I will talk about this. Some people have said that the knees aren't strong enough, the ratchets aren't strong enough to hold up Starscream. He does fall backwards. He is top heavy. He's got a lot of die cast in him. But the same is actually true for Maketoys as well. So Maketoys does have a lot of die cast up here. And the same thing happens with Maketoys. The knees bend. But what's worse is the waist also bends. So the waist comes open. This is kind of a loose joint. It's always been a loose joint. This is my second version of Maketoys Meteor. I had the original and now I have the EX. Both of them did that. They always were loose at this waist joint. But now you've got both of these things happening. So I don't see them being any different in terms of that. Although some people have complained about that on MP-52. So since they both have that same issue and I don't have any other QC issues, I'm going to call it a tie in build quality. They both are fine to me. Now let's talk about the articulation. In order to do that, we're going to articulate both of these figures relatively quickly. So for the Maketoys, you have the head on a ball joint. For some reason, it's now loose. I'm not sure what's happening here, but it is loose on the ball joint. But it does go side to side, rotates all the way around, and can look up and down. Back, not so much, but down, definitely. You have the shoulder on this joint here. Also rotates all the way around. And you have a rotation at the bicep. Double jointed elbow gets you the full bend. You have a rotation here at the null ray, and also you can fold this out. You can get this into basically any position. Rotation at the wrist. You have these 3 fingers on a single pin, and then the pointer fingers on a separate 2 pins, so you can point him. You can point at whatever you need to. Coming down, you have a waist swivel, and you have a really far ab crunch. You can get some extreme ab crunch on that one, so that's nice. You have 2 hip skirts here that move out of the way, and you get the leg on a soft but tight ratchet up to there. This is really going to bug me now. You get it back to here. If you move the butt flat out of the way, you can get it all the way back. It does have a butt flap, unfortunately. And out to the side, all on friction. You have a rotation at the thigh. You have a double jointed knee, but unfortunately because of the sculpt, it does block him from going past there. It gets a little past 90 degrees, but it is blocked there by its own sculpt. You have an ankle tilt that goes up to there, none the other direction. And then you have a toe tilt. It is on a ratchet there, so you can get this toe a little bit further down. But the heel doesn't move really at all. It's just kind of locked in place, so you really only get a tilt this way. Coming to the back here, you get the wings go in and out like this, and you can go up and down. You do sometimes end up loose like this. You can just tighten that screw right there, and it will end up being a little bit better. So that's it for the Maketoys. Let's take a look at the Takara Tomy. The head is on a hinge swivel. It's actually a really unique joint. I've never seen like this. It gets a side to side. It goes way down. If you lift up on this joint, you can get it way down. You can also get it way up if you want it way up. It does break the sculpt a little bit, and his neck looks a little funny, but you can pose that. The arms go up to there, rotate all the way around on a ratchet joint, butterfly joint here, and a joint up on this joint, so you can get the shoulder way up. A rotation at the bicep. You have a single jointed elbow, gets you well past 90 degrees, and you can also utilize this joint here to get basically a double jointed elbow slash bicep. The null ray does move just like the other one, and you can rotate it. You can basically get whatever pose you need out of that. You have a rotation at the wrist. You have individually articulated fingers, and there's 2 pins on each. And then the thumb also has a bend here and then a pin in the middle. And you also get this dice roll movement on the hand as well. No waist rotation on this one, but you do get an ab crunch. And it does lock in place, and it is also limited by this. So it's a little bit less articulation than the Maketoys there because of that locking mechanism. You get hip skirts here. Those move out of the way. You can get the leg up to there on a ratchet joint. Back to there, hindered by its backpack, unfortunately, it doesn't get that far back. And the legs go out to there. Rotation at the thigh. You have a single jointed knee, but it gets well past 90 degrees, gets you the full bend. You get an ankle tilt in both directions, and you get a pivot here. If you open this up, you get a little bit more. Some people have said theirs is a little bit loose in this direction. Mine tends to be fine so far. And then coming to the back here, nothing on the wings. These wings are locked in place. They are, they can move a little bit, but really they don't move much at all. So there are some things that Takara Tomy actually does better. Definitely the shoulder joints and the butterfly joints are better, but on the Maketoys, you do have the ab crunch and you have the waist swivel that both move much more than the Takara Tomy. So we'll give articulation to Maketoys. Now we'll talk about the transformation and engineering. So when it comes to transformation, they both have some tricky bits. They both have issues with the cockpit. There's a lot of folding and flipping. The Maketoys often comes off the C-clip here that this is mounted to, and that's somewhat annoying. Although on the EX version, it looks like they've fixed that problem and they got rid of the C-clip and they made it a permanent piece there. So that's nice. I'm glad that they did that. But it is still the same complexity in terms of the transformation and getting the cockpit flipped around correctly. So same thing with the Takara Tomy, the cockpit is a little bit of a chore, and sometimes getting it exactly right and getting it compressed into position is irritating. As far as the legs go, I think the transformation on Takara Tomy is definitely done better. It is a little bit more movement and parts, but it definitely comes out better at the end, you know, with a cleaner leg and a cleaner look. You don't end up with this fin kind of hanging around the back. Same for the backpack as well. You can see that the Takara Tomy cleans up really nicely and tightens up pretty good, whereas the Maketoys still has a lot of kibble and stuff hanging off the back. This is all kind of locked in place. There's nothing shaking. Maketoys got a lot of stuff kind of rattling around back here. So I'm going to give Transformation a tie. I think they're both similar in their complexity. You know, both of them have their fun parts. Both of them have the more annoying parts. But engineering for me is going to be Takara Tomy. They nailed this engineering. I really love the way they did it. They were able to clean up the legs, clean up the back, make it look still rounded, even though it turns into a jet. So for me, engineering is going to go to Takara Tomy. So here they are in their alt modes. They definitely have a different take there. I'll put the G1 cartoon so you can see how they look next to that. The Takara Tomy definitely nails that cartoon look a little bit better. It's got overall better colors. The cockpit is closer to that color as well. And then the overall look of the jet matches the cartoon a lot better. It is missing the red here on this tail. So that is one slight difference. The Takara also is on wheels, whereas the Maketoys is actually on these little plastic pieces. Those aren't wheels. They also both have opening cockpits here, so you can look inside. Unfortunately, the Maketoys one, not only is the cockpit kind of floppy and tends to come apart, and you end up having to put it back together, but there is nothing in the cockpit. It's just that white plastic. The Takara one, they definitely detailed it and put a little seat in there, and that looks kind of cool. You don't end up seeing the inside anyway because they've painted this fully, whereas this is actually a translucent cockpit. I prefer the translucent. Some people prefer the painted, but for me, this looks better. I unfortunately do have a QC issue here. This C-clip is actually misformed. It also has 2 rivets in it, so I'm going to try to get a new part. I'm sure Toy Dojo will take care of that for me, but that is an unfortunate issue with the QC. I also have issues with just the wings are constantly moving out of the way, so if you flip it around and you're messing around trying to get the landing gear in and out or whatever, you end up messing this up and you're just constantly playing with that. Same with this cockpit. You're constantly trying to fix it. So because of those issues with the Maketoys one, I'm going to give Takara Tomy the Ultima, and I just think they did a better job nailing the cartoon, and they don't have, you know, any of these floppy bits. Everything's solid. Nothing really moves out of the way. I don't have any issue on my back wing. Some people have said that, but we're going to give alt mode to Takara Tomy. Next, we're going to talk about the cost on these two figures. Now, several people have mentioned to me I should look at the value per dollar. There's really no objective way to measure value. Value is in the eye of the beholder, whoever's determining that value. So I'm not going to do value, I'm going to do cost. But I just wanted to mention that's the reason why I don't do value. But as far as cost, Maketoys comes in at $160 retail. The Takara Tomy Starscream at release was $250. So Maketoys is clearly going to win on cost, much less in terms of almost $100 difference. So final thoughts on the comparison. You can see the score there. Takara Tomy is going to take it pretty handily here in my comparison. But what really matters is, what are your preferences? So when it comes to Maketoys, Maketoys has a more anime style look. You can see with the wings, kind of they bow out and give you a nice angle. The legs are a little bit larger. The head is a little bit smaller. And overall, even the articulation gives that anime style feel, more Japanese style feel. The Takara Tomy definitely is going after the cartoon. That's their top priority, is cartoon look, cartoon accuracy. That's where they even, some cases, to a fault, sacrifice things to get that cartoon look. So depending on what your preferences are, you should pick the one that goes best with you. For me personally, the Takara Tomy fits in better with my collection. I prefer it. I like the engineering in both the robot mode and the vehicle mode. So I'm going to stick with Takara Tomy. Hope you guys enjoyed this review. Hope I helped a few people out there make a decision on which direction you're going to go. So thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed this, and we'll see you next time.